following on from my video on the Triumph 955i Sprint, which a few of you have tuned and enjoyed. I have moved on. I've got a different bike. Actually, between that bike and this one, I got a GSXR 750K1. Great bike, really loved it, but soon came to the conclusion that really wasn't the right fit. And I've ended up with this 2008 Suzuki DL 1000 V-Strom. And the Triumph was good, I enjoyed it, but it didn't seem to quite tick the boxes, and I kind of went back to the youth and I thought, you know what, I'll try bikes that were popular when I was a kid. And as much as I loved it, I thought it's just not right for the road. I'm not using it enough. And I thought, right, it's one last chance. Let's give one of these adventure bikes a try. And I tell you what, it's not something I ever would have gone for, but I'm a complete convert. And I think if, like me, you're on a bit of a budget, one of these first generation V-Stroms is a really good option. Now, if you're about my kind of age, you'll be aware of the power plant in these. They're from the TL1000S. They started out life as, so an engine that's been in use since the 1990s. What I love about that is it means that the problems have been ironed out. By the time it's arriving in a bike like this in 2008, and it's in a detuned version, that's a real bomb-proof motor, you know, and it's made by a good quality Japanese firm like Suzuki. And that 1000cc motor's got beautiful grunt. The GSXR 750 I had was lovely on the road, handled great, but this engine's a lot more practical. When I want grunt to just overtake traffic, it's just so much more easy. I thought I might lose something in the handling stakes, and you know, I'm not going to try and fool you, I'm not a real racy guy, but I can ride a bike okay, and with the state of most roads, this bike handles great. I've done a couple of things since I've bought it. Since I've poked around with it, it's been very clear this bike has spent a lot of its time outdoors, and it's not the kind of bike that a lot of people really fall in love with. The tyres were 7 years old and they're in bad condition. I've managed to swap the front one out. I've gone for a Pirelli Angel GT on the front, and I've got one to put on the back as well, something I'm probably going to take care of this weekend. But even with the squared off rubber on the back, it still handles okay. It's not dreadful. You can see by my setting that you might think, oh, I'm doing a bit of trail riding, and that's something I wouldn't want to do with this bike. If I had just this dusty trail to ride on, fine. And it's not for me a lack of ground clearance or anything like that. It's just for me, that kind of riding. I used to ride a bit of motocross when I was younger, and it's just too heavy a bike. Something like a 650 or something of that nature would be more than enough if you're going to spend most of your time off road. But what I've been able to do with this is integrate it more into my daily life. I've got to survey and measure up things for work, so I adapted my insurance to suit, and I take this on job surveys and measure things up, and it just gives me more time on the bike, which makes me happier, makes me a better rider. I think you should really consider one. Sadly, I don't have my helmet camera anymore because, quite frankly, making lots of auto or moto vlog videos really wasn't for me, but I'll do a few on the V-Strom because I think it's something that you should consider if you're on a budget. You can see here are the slightly nasty looking areas, but again, during the winter months I can clean all of that up, and ultimately I don't worry so much because this is a bike I want to use, whereas I found with the GSXR I was more worried about making sure it was perfect. It's like when I'm sat on the bike I don't notice those things, and yeah, don't panic. If you haven't got the cash for the latest and greatest GS or whatever you think, then I really think these 1000cc V-Stroms are worth a go. I will fire it up and you can have a little listen. This one's got some aftermarket cans on it. I would have never gone to the trouble of buying them. It's got some baffles in. I think you'll find online that people say the existing exhausts are quite heavy, so I might have saved a bit of weight, but like I said, to be honest, I think this bike mainly belongs on the road, and yeah, a bit of weight saving. I wouldn't rush out to buy cans unless you really want to. I said the tyres are a bit old, I don't fancy pushing any harder on these, but it's a good one. And little things like here, my bar end weight has just disappeared. I really like it, I really rate it. So much so that if I could turn back time, in the words of Cher, I would I'd definitely go for just straight up V-Strom. I actually intend probably next year to maybe do a track day on it, and I think that could be a bit of fun. So yeah, if you're thinking of a accessible adventure bike, definitely give the V-Strom a look. I think it could be right up your street.